Welcome to my YouTube channel, Rick Surowicz Watercolor. At any time during the video, you can click on the link in the lower right hand corner to subscribe to my channel. And if you want to learn more about my YouTube videos, self-paced courses, or my live online classes, you can click on the links that appear at the end of the video. If you enjoy this video, be sure to like it. That helps me keep my channel going. Hi, I'm Rick. I'm in my studio. And this is the fourth painting in a series of 4 mini paintings. This is actually my fourth series, but this is the fourth mini painting, intended to be a very simple subject. It's an imaginary subject, just a good exercise to practice some of your fundamental skills. And for this demonstration, I'll be using this setup. The drawing here, I've positioned a template on the project page of my website. So this is the template for it. It's 5 by 7. This is, like I said, this is the fourth painting in this series. And you can find the links to that project page where you'll find these templates in the description of this video. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started here. And I'm going to start with a simple wash. I'm going to imagine the light source is coming from the left to the right in as I paint this. And I'm going to start with a little cerulean blue and just mix a little bit of that cerulean blue on my palette, and using a wash brush, just bring this wash down. I need a little bit more paint here on my palette. So there we go. And I'm just take some water and I'm going to lighten that as I go down and gradate that wash. And I'm going to paint around the roof line of this little building that I've drawn. And I'm going to take the sky wash, though, down to the horizon line. So I'm painting around this. And the dry paper will resist the flow of the paint, so I don't have to worry about that going where I don't want it, as long as I don't wet the paper there with my wash. Pick up a little bit of excess here at the bottom. So basically, I just have a simple cerulean blue wash. Get these beads of water around there too. And now I've got this distant tree line, and I'm going to paint that while it's wet and wet. It'll give me a nice soft shape. So I'm just going to take a little sap green. I'll take some of this blue and mix in there. But I'm going to take some quinacridone gold. And I'm going to add a little bit of rose madder to this green mixture I have here, just to give me a little more neutral middle value tone. And what I'm going to do while this is wet is I'm going to come in, I'm going to drop these colors in, this green, a little bit more pigment in this. And I'm keeping my brush kind of damp, I'm not bringing a bead of moisture to the page. I'll take a little of that bead off because I don't want as much movement. And I want a soft edge, so that's why I'm working wet and wet. Gold. I'm going to take some of that over on this side. So this little mini painting gives you some, just some practice with some of the different wash techniques and different edge development. So now I've got that soft edge, and I want to have a kind of a darker value at the base, not real dark, kind of a middle value, but I want it to be cooler. So I'm taking some sap green with some rose madder, and actually more neutral too. So I'm just gonna, this is still wet, still damp. So I'm just putting this along the bottom, and that gives me a nice soft gradation of this more neutral middle value into this brighter colors that I have there. And it gives me a soft edge. I think while I have this color, I'm just gonna take some of these, and maybe I'll go a little brighter with a little more gold in it. Might take some of this permanent green. And now I'm more in the middle ground here. I'm going to get a little lighter. Let me take some lemon yellow and some of that permanent green light, and I want to make it feel a little bit like some of that sun's hitting on the top of this. A little bit. I'm just going to bring this across. I'm going to drag my brush. It's dry paper, so I'm going to get a bit of a broken edge. Gives me a more natural edge for this shape. Bring this across here. And now once again, I'm going to take a little bit of the darker, more neutral color that I mixed. Let's get a little more green in that. A little shadow on some of that. Get a little more. I'm going to take some alizarin crimson. I often include a touch of a reddish green. Green is being influenced by with red into my mixtures. The green subjects. All right, and I'm going to just touch that with a tissue, just to give a little added texture and changes in value to that, just slightly. So now I've got, some soft edges, some hard edges. I've got some broken edges. And what I want to do now is I'm going to dry that. Then I'm going to put a big wash on this ground cover area. All right, that's dry. I'm going to take a number 8 round brush. I'm going to take some of this lemon yellow. It's a Hansa yellow. Some of this permanent green light. And let's see, a touch of gold maybe. A little gold. Now I'm going to take this brighter, kind of a yellow green. Get that there. And I'm going to drop that out here as if the sun's hitting this field or pasture or whatever it is. So we got that kind of a bright yellow green. Now I'm going to take some little gold, and I'm going to start to change that a little bit because I'm now starting to move in a different area spatially. I'm starting to get more towards the middle ground and to the foreground. So I'm going to differentiate what's going on. And now as I come down here, I'm going to get a little darker, a little more, not too dark, but more of a middle value green. And I'm just using leading the bead right now down my page. So my brush is fully loaded, and I'm just bringing that down. I'm going to take a little of the red. It starts to get a little more towards neutral. Probably should be using, I could be using a bigger brush as I do this, my wash brush. No need to have a little brush. I'm going to take some of this gold, get a little bit more of that in here. All right. So now I have a bright kind of a yellow green, and as it moves more towards the middle ground and foreground, it starts to transition to a gold and more of a neutral green. And that helps create the feeling of depth, because if it was all just the same color, same value, it can flatten things out. So let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and dry this, and then I'm going to work on the house and this tree. Okay, that's dry. And I've also cleaned my palette, and I'm just going to take so I'm going to take a number 4 round brush, and I'll take a little ultramarine blue, a little rose madder. I'll mix some of that as a violet, and I'll take a little bit of raw sienna. And now I'm just going to paint kind of the shadow. It's a little too much blue, too strong. I didn't want it to be quite that dark. So I'm going to paint the shadow side of this little structure that I have. And as I paint this, even this little area, I have warm and cool colors in there. I have red, I have blue, I have violet, red, violet. Even just in this little shadowed side of the building. And now I'm going to take a little of that. I'm going to go under here as if there's a shadow being cast. And bring it down to some boards. Some boards were there, and you see some of that. The edge of this roof line. Take a little of this mixture that I have, some of the blues and violets. Okay, I'm going to take a little burnt orange. And let's see, I'm going to start to paint the rooftop here. I'm going to act as if the sun is hitting this. So it's going to stay very light. Still going to have some cool colors on it. It's kind of feels like one of these aluminum type rooftops, or galvanized, I should say. I'm going to take a little burnt orange and give it the feeling of a rusty rooftop. A little water, let that color run. And I'm just going to touch that with a tissue so it's not quite as strong. Okay. And I'm going to take, let's see, I'll take a little raw umber. I just want something to use for my tree trunk. So let's see, put a little blue in with this mixture. I just want kind of a dark earth tone, kind of a warm earth tone. I'm going to start to paint it, the indication of a tree trunk, some branches. And remember that you don't see the whole tree trunk going up on one side. There's normally breaks in that. And let's see, I'm just going to take a round brush, take some sap green and mix it into what I have on my palette. I just want to get a variety of some green going. And I'm going to drag my brush. Actually, I think what I'm going to do, before I do that, I want to dry this because I don't want to drag the dark kind of earth tone that I have there. So I'm going to give it a quick dry, and I'm going to do make some broken edge to suggest the foliage on this tree. Okay, so that's dry. So let's take a little bit. I'll start with kind of a yellow green and take a little bit of the moisture off my brush. I'm just going to drag that around a little bit. Remember, trees aren't cotton balls. They're not spheres. They have a bit of an organic shape to them. Get a little gold. Pick up some of that gold. So I'm going to have some of that sky peeking through. And I want to get a little darker. Just have a little bit of so I can see this overlap a little bit more. Just a few touches. some darker, kind of a blue-green. It's probably all I need. And I'm not going to fuss with that too much. I'm just going to really leave it. And I'm going to take, let's see, a number 4 round brush. I'm going to take a little of this ultramarine blue, maybe a little rose madder, some of this burnt orange. I just need a kind of a dark middle value. And I'm going to just do a little bit of just some dark line work on this. Let's say I had some boards, you know, it's an old farm building of some kind, an outbuilding or something. You could put a door in it if you want to do that. Like I said, this is all imaginary, but it's just an opportunity to practice some of the techniques. And now I've got the darker value kind of in the middle ground, and what I'm going to do is I want to get a little of that going on the ground cover that I have here. So I'm dragging the side of my brush, the belly of the brush, this darker value, getting some hard edge and some broken edge in there. Skip a little bit and I'll just a little darker. So this is just this series is just a mini painting series. Practice some techniques and, you know, use your imagination. Now I want to create a little texture on what I have going on. So I'm going to take a 1/2 inch flat brush and just grab some of this pigment I have on my palette. I'm going to drag the belly of this. I need to get a little bit more moisture on there. I didn't quite have it loaded enough, but I still want to take some of that off. I'm going to drag that. That starts to give me some texture. It could be some shadow from what's happening over on the side. Who knows? But just a little bit of that to break that up. And let me give this a dry. Okay, that's dry, and that's about as far as I'm going to go. So this is the 4th in this series, the last one of this series. And as I said, these are just mini paintings. Give you an opportunity to practice a variety of skills on this very, very imaginary subject. I've given you the templates to use for these, and you can make them different colors. You can do whatever you want, but very simple. Some soft edge, some hard edge, some broken edge, changing some of the values, thinking about where things are as far as the background, middle ground, and foreground. So this completes this series, and I hope you've enjoyed painting it.